Hello and welcome to PMCLounge.com. In this video, let's talk about what you as a Scrum Master need to do as part of retrospectives. Obviously, you are expected to host this meeting. You are expected to be conducting effective retrospectives. So here are the four things that you should do when you are conducting retrospectives. Now, as always, if you are into reading articles, first link in the description is going to take you to a relevant article on this topic over at our official website pmclounge.com, so you can check that out. Second link will be a playlist of all the videos that we have done so far, all conceptual videos on Agile that we have done so far. They are going to help you out if you are preparing for PMP exam. The Agile part of the PMP exam will be covered in that playlist. Third link is going to help you out if you are preparing for PMI-ACP. And this topic, by the way, is applicable to both PMP and PMI-ACP. So stick around. Let's move on. So we all know what retrospective really is, right? The main question here is, why do we need retrospectives? Well, what gets measured gets improved. So unless and until you are doing effective retrospectives, you are not measuring anything. And if you're not measuring anything, you won't be able to improve anything. Retrospectives help your team improve the way they actually work. And this, by the way, is the best reason to conduct retrospectives. All of us want to improve, all of us want our teams to improve, and that is why if you do good retrospectives, if you do effective retrospectives, it is definitely going to improve the way your team work. So after each sprint, the team reflects over the experience they had, they just had. That means in the sprint, whatever experience that they just had, and the team then works together to fix any issues that might have come up during the course of the sprint, of course. Now, with effective retrospectives, the team continues to focus on making things better, learn from their experience, and again get better at it as well. So the focus here is make things better, make your processes better, make your tools better, make the way you function, make that better, learn from whatever experience that you have just had, and overall get better as a team. So that is the goal of effective retrospectives. That is why we need retrospectives. So now that we have established that retrospectives is a great way for your team to improve, how do you actually go about and do retrospectives? Now, there is no right or wrong answer here. There is no set standard as such, or a set model that can be copied over by all Scrum Masters to host retrospectives. Because, and this is also something that you will see on real life projects. Different teams, they actually have different ways of doing retrospectives. But broadly, there are 4 steps involved in retrospectives, and all the different ways that you're going to see that a retrospective is being done, these 4 steps should ideally be involved. Number one is you set the stage, and this is something we are talking about, the retrospective meeting, by the way. So you set the stage, you gather data, you generate insights, and you then decide what next to do. So number one is set the stage. And this is basically how do you open the retrospective meeting. The goal and the focus of the meeting needs to be clarified in the beginning. Very, very important. Ideally, this should be part of your retrospective meeting invite itself. You should clearly mention what is the goal of the retrospective. Sometimes some teams actually do very focused retrospectives. That means they are only going to focus on the tools that they used during the course of the sprint, and that is the only focus of this retrospective meeting. They may do another retrospective for everything else, but sometimes there are focused retrospectives also. So if that is the case, that is also something that you should mention in your meeting invite, and it is something that you need to reiterate when you are opening up the meeting, when you are setting the stage. Now, this could be as simple as increasing defects in recent sprints. So this could be the focus area of your, of your retrospective, that you are basically seeing an increase in the number of defects in your previous sprints. So you want to focus this retrospective meeting on just that, or you want to understand how do you incorporate design changes effectively. So this is these two are basically examples of a focused retrospective meeting. Also, it is best if everyone in the team gets to talk in the beginning to break ice and feel comfortable in sharing their opinions later. So this is very, very important. You want to break ice. You don't want to, right away get into, hey, these are the five things that didn't work from my point of view. What do what do you other guys think? And then everyone starts talking about what didn't work. It's best to break ice. It's best to introduce each other so that everyone feels comfortable, and everyone feels comfortable speaking out their opinions as well, sharing their opinions as well. So this is very, very important. This is how you set the stage. If you're looking to clear your PMP exam in 50 days, head over to pmclounge.com/PMP study plan and grab the free study plan. Thousands of our members have made use of it. Okay, number two is gather data. So this is the second step in retrospective. This is the second thing that you do in a retrospective meeting. Once the stage is set, the team goes over all the events of the last sprint. Now, these events could be just the meetings, these events could be the milestones of the release, whatever, right? Whatever, however you define an event, but essentially in the gather data step, this is where you want to go over all the events of the previous sprint. The team goes over the sprint timeline, discussing the work that was done and the decisions that were taken. So you always have a timeline of your sprint handy. Where did you start, where did you end, what were the events or the milestones, right, along the way. And the team actually goes over the timeline. They discuss whatever work that was done, if there were any decisions that were taken along the way. That is also something that is discussed. Team members, they often vote on these events. So the milestones or whatever major events that happened during the sprint, right? Team members are going to vote on these events, and if there were any decisions that were taken along the way as well. So team members are going to vote on both events and decisions to determine whether they were high points or low points for them individually. Now, this is very, very important. This is where the idea of setting the stage up, the idea of breaking the ice is very, very important, because every individual in the team should feel comfortable in sharing their ideas, and they should feel comfortable in calling out an event or a decision as a low point, which basically they thought, right? So that is why setting the stage is important. And the second step, of course, this is where you are just gathering the data. Number three is generate insights. So you already have the data. Once this data gathering piece is complete, the team can then look into the events or decisions that seem to be the most problematic during the course of the sprint, right? So everyone has already voted on their high points or low points based on the events and decisions that took place during the course of the sprint. Now the team is going to look at the most problematic area. That is the next step when you are generating insights. The team tries to identify the root cause of the problems and spends time thinking about what can be done differently in the future. Very, very important, right? So you already know which areas are the most problematic, which event was most problematic for most people, or which decision was most problematic for most people. It must have been low point for a lot of people, right? So now you are going to identify the root cause. What made you or your team take such a decision, or what made a certain event to be the most problematic? So you are going to find the root cause of it, and then obviously the team is going to spend time in thinking what can be done differently so that this event or this decision, if it were to occur in the next sprint again, it is not as problematic. One of the tools that teams often use is known as a fishbone diagram. We have actually done a separate video on this already, so I'll share that link in the description, fourth link in the description. Check that out if you want to know more about fishbone diagram. But this is something which is used to generate insights. So by the time we reach step 4, we have already covered a lot of ground. We have found out what were the low points based on the events or the decisions that were made during the course of the sprint. Those were the problem areas basically. Now after that, we've also looked into the root cause of all those problem areas. We've also found out some of our options, what we can do differently to ensure that these problem areas are not problem areas anymore. So step 4 is when you decide the next step. What do we do from here on? So once you have the improvement options or whatever options that you may have based on what we can do differently next time onwards, once all that data is available, the final step is deciding which improvements can be implemented or what can be done differently next sprint onwards. So this is basically a decision step. You are essentially taking a decision based on all the things that you have discussed so far in the retrospective meeting. Finally, here's the question for this video. How do you conduct retrospectives? Do you follow these 4 steps, or are there any other kind of steps that you follow, right? Let me know, how do you do retrospectives? Definitely looking forward to your answers. And that's all that we had in this video. I hope you got value out of it and were able to understand how do you actually run retrospectives. Like, share, subscribe. As always, do check out the website pmclounge.com. And if you like our work, consider contributing at pmclounge.com/contribute. Thank you.